welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That is the Hall of Famer Cris Carter, and as is all the time, that's Nick Wright.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Lovely Tuesday morning here in New York City. Everyone good?
Yeah, we got to...
Are you sure it's Tuesday, Jenna?
Nope. Every day I ask what day is it, and every day he gives me a different day. So there you go, a little insight into what really happened here before the show starts.
America and people on Twitter, be nice to Jenna today. She's playing hurt. She suffered a serious injury last night in her third workout of the day, and she's powering through it. So, Cece, we got to be good teammates today. We got to understand she's not going to be able to go right as often, going to go left a little more.
I can't pivot. I can't stop.
She was coming down the hallway, and someone yelled out, Willis Reed.
And I dropped and started flailing. Little sprained ankle will not keep me from 3 hours of fantastic sports television.
Let's do this.
He was never sprained an ankle, LeBron.
Oh, but he did, didn't he? And come back and played. On paper, there's reason to compare LeBron James to Sixers star Ben Simmons, right? Both are versatile, both men. Big men, rather, both tremendous athletes, both love olives, and both were #1 picks. But that's where comparisons end as the Cavs took care of the Sixers last night, 113-91. LeBron finished with 30 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists. Cleveland has now won 8 straight games.
That's interesting.
Here is LeBron James afterwards.
I'm a big believer, and I know, and I always preach it, that it takes time, no matter how good you've been in the past or no, how good the players are or whatever. It takes time for things to get in place, and it took us a little time. We took some tough losses early in the season, but we had to learn each other. We had different lineup changes, different lineup switches, and we just kind of been in a rhythm as of late because we've been pretty consistent. So it just takes time.
Well, to be fair, Nick Wright has been saying exactly what LeBron said. It takes time for the right chemistry. It takes time for these guys to sort of fall into place. So, Cece, I'll start with you. Are you buying now that the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have won their last 8 games, are the best team in the East yet again?
Well, if I am going to buy it, that means I'd have to sell something that I bought last week, because Nick and you posed the question to me, are the Boston Celtics the best team in the NBA? Fresh off a win at Golden State. And, of course, like everyone else in the news, yes, they are.
Well, not quite like everyone else in the news.
Well, normal people.
Okay.
People who don't have bipartisan opinions and everything. But after a week, I mean, a lot can change in the NBA, and especially we're still in the early stages. Like, you're starting to get a feel for what teams are going to be like. Boston Celtics are still a good basketball team, even after losing to Detroit last night. But Cleveland, we knew at some point they're going to have to deal with LeBron James. Now, it's not a matter of LeBron, so to speak. It's how good will the supporting cast be around them. So Cleveland, fortunately, with Derrick Rose getting hurt, it's helped this team out. It's helped the overall chemistry. If you look at their bench, if you look at Fry, D-Wade, Corver, and Green, last night they give you 50 points. LeBron starts off the game, and this is the backstory. JR had someone die in his family. So he didn't know if he was going to play before the game. Took the shoot off, so when he came to the arena, they didn't know. So LeBron had to get the team going. It's a big game for them in Philadelphia, kind of going into the game with them having the same record. But LeBron was sensational. Like, he said, I'm going to put the onus on myself to get the game off. He had 15 points in the first quarter with not knowing if JR, what kind of state of mind he was going to be in, with the support that he's getting off the bench. I mean, yes, I believe. I mean, Boston does not want to play the Cavs in a series. And it always comes down to this, Jenna. It was the old Michael Jordan rule. Well, which team is better? Well, which team can beat Michael 4 games?
Yeah.
In the East, it's been the same thing for LeBron James. And there's still not a team that can say right now with any type of confidence, we can beat that Cleveland in a series of 7.
Cece, I welcome you, and I'm glad you are joining me on this side of the argument. I know it took you, as you were saying a little bit, it took you a week. You were there with everyone else. The Celtics, they've won 16 in a row. The reality always was, even when the Cavs were, what were they? They're 13 or 12 and 9. So before the 8-game winning streak, when they were having issues, the questions were, when they're 5 and 7, I should say, Isaiah's not. No. None of that mattered. They had LeBron, and this is the most amazing part, peak LeBron. Not LeBron extending his prime and still at the. No. The best LeBron we have ever seen is the LeBron we are seeing right now.
Okay, Nick, now you're on the corner where LeBron's the greatest player ever, and that's not this argument. But even for a person that has the type of information and the opinion you have on LeBron, be honest, how surprised are you, even at year 15, that LeBron is better than he's ever been?
I am surprised at one part of his game this year, the three-point shooting. Because last year, he was a bad free throw shooter.
Right.
Last year, he was an okay three-point shooter. But the shooting, which is usually what carries a player late in his career, the shooting, especially through the line, had fallen off. But last year, let's keep in mind, last season, year 14, was the first season of his career he ever averaged at least 8 rebounds and 8 assists a game. This is now the second year that is happening. But I want to give some context. Why are the Cavs the best team in the league? Because they're the best team in the East. Because they have the best player in the league by an enormous margin. The gap between LeBron and whomever is second place, I believe it's Kevin Durant, some people might argue James Harden, is bigger than the gap between that second best player and the 8th best player. I want to show everyone, including my friends at this table, some numbers going on right now. So here is LeBron James this season. 28.6 points, 57.7 from the field, 42.3 from 3, and 8.5 assists per game. That has each of that random or anonymous player X notched, just barely in each category. You would agree? Like just a little more points, a little better field goal percentage, a little better three-point, and a few more assists. Agreed?
Agreed.
Yes.
All right, show America who that anonymous player is.
Is it you, Nick?
That anonymous player is Kobe's MVP season, Shaq's MVP season, KD's MVP season, and Derrick Rose's MVP season.
Whoa.
Those 4 players each won 1 MVP. So it takes Kobe's points, Shaq's field goal percentage, Durant's three-point percentage, Derrick Rose's assists in their 1 MVP years. And that's LeBron has bested it this season.
So we need to find out what happened with the shooting. We need an investigation.
Man, you
he hurt
told
his
us,
elbow.
Cece, what happened with the shooting?
I mean, he said he hurt his elbow. And in rehabbing his elbow, he found something from a technical standpoint in his shot that has made him a better shooter. He just mentioned it in passing. I need my research team, which consists of like a half a person, Dusty when he's not doing that, and Jamila when she's not making graphics and stuff for you. You guys need to stop with these surprises. That was pretty good right there.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, that was pretty good. You got 4 people on me. Last time you had 1 mysterious person, and then now you got 4.
Is it possible that maybe LeBron even surprised LeBron, not knowing that he would have as much as he had this season, and said to himself, if I'm going to be able to keep par with all the other younger, more athletic guys in the league, up-and-coming guys in the league, I have to figure out a way to keep my edge and my advantage, and that is going to come from shooting this three-point shot. Is it possible that maybe this is what he took in the offseason as his main objective, is to really
just
hone in?
Thinking about it and having conversations with Maverick, one of LeBron's confidants and best friends for a long, long time, he talked about, when we talked in L.A., about LeBron's conditioning, his mental state. Like, he was in some of the best shape that he's ever been in. Now, we hear this all the time.
In the offseason.
This is the offseason.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is all veteran players. They always come back and say, Jenna, you know something, this year I'm stronger, I'm faster.
Yeah.
But a lot of that is just hot air. But with LeBron, through training camp, now he hurt his ankle leading up to that. So leading up to that, he was in phenomenal shape from a physical standpoint and mental. Now, as far as his shooting, that part we didn't know about. And that's been displayed with great conditioning and new chemistry. 7 new faces.
Sure.
To be able to play like this with 7 new faces, him and James Harden right now, to me, 1 and 2 are playing the most phenomenal basketball. And it needs to be mentioned how good Harden's playing, too, out west.
And listen, Harden had 25 and 4 on 7 shots in the first quarter last night. James has been extraordinary, and his team has been, in my estimation, the best team in the league so far. So I want to give James Harden an enormous amount of credit because he deserves it. One last point on LeBron. So in year 15, he clearly needs individual challenges. When you've been to 7 straight finals, when the East has been the LeBron James Invitational for almost a decade, you need individual things to motivate yourself. Last year, I believe that was, during the regular season, the MVP award. He ended up getting, I think, way unfairly snubbed in it. He didn't even finish in the top 3 of the award, which was the first time in, I think, 7 years he didn't finish in the top 3. It was ridiculous. I think this year it is the MVP award again, because even you, a Michael Jordan guy, said, man, if LeBron wins an MVP in year 15, and then you see that.
That's that Ohio math now. Yeah. I give him 2 for every championship. Yes. I give him 2 for any MVP past year 13.
Right. And then last night, there was the extra motivation of everyone's asking me about Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
Now, everyone at this table loves Ben Simmons.
Yes.
I think Ben Simmons is going to be a superstar and is having the best rookie year any player's had since Blake Griffin. But, okay, everyone wants to talk about Ben Simmons. I'll go out and score or assist on 15 of the first 17 and let everyone know what's going on.
The one thing I'm surprised that you missed, which is really going to help LeBron going down the road, is the last few games, he's not leading the NBA in minutes. Right. He got those 30 last night in 31 minutes. Now, you're talking about being efficient. And if they can keep that up, especially their second unit, it's only going to help LeBron bring his minutes down right where they should be so he can start the game fast like that compared to when we went to the Garden to see him. Oh, my gosh. Okay? So I know what he's capable of.
The first 3 quarters
yes.
on the court.
And then he can either turn it on, he can start fast, or he can turn it on as the team needs it.
NBA analyst Cris Broussard.
This is awesome.
I am
telling Cris there's a lot of handshakes, there's a lot of fist pumps. Easily 8 minutes of hellos before we get into actual
Jenna,
content
this is the
on
best
the show.
thing. Because this is a dream come true.
Yeah.
Because in trying to put this show together, Nick and I were doing a lot of work in L.A. They hadn't announced the show yet, but we were doing a lot of things because we're huge basketball fans. And with Cris, spending a lot of time with him in L.A. Him and I know each other from our former life at another network. But to have our show come to fruition, you being added to the show, and now him finally coming to New York because of the NBA season. So for us, it's a little more than just a normal guest. When we say a friend of the show, we really mean that in Cris Broussard.
My first meeting when I came out to L.A. with you guys, I met Cris. Remember the cafeteria?
Eating lunch together.
Yeah, you saw when Cris made me buy my own coffee. You remember that part? I joke. All right, let's talk some basketball. Let's talk some Lakers. They lost 120-115 to the Clippers last night, thanks in gigantic part to Lonzo Ball. Went 1 for 7, 3 points, 3 lonely points. Lonzo was shooting 31% from the field and 25% from three-point range this season. Well, at least the guy's being consistent. All right, Cris Broussard, how should the Lakers handle Lonzo? What is the best approach to how they can either make him fit in with the Lakers better or just make him a better basketball player?
I don't know where you guys stand on this, but I heard the tease G League. No way, no how. I'm not trying to be Rob Parker, but G League? Is that you thinking G League?
Yeah.
What I say about Lonzo Ball with the Lakers, leave him alone. Let him play. Let him do exactly what he's doing. He is averaging 9 points, 7 assists, 7 rebounds. I know his shooting is horrible, but he's become the youngest player ever to have a triple-double. He's had 2 triple-doubles, the first Laker since Magic Johnson, maybe the first rookie overall in 20 games. His second game, he goes for 29 points, falls, 1 assist or shy of a triple-double.
Yeah.
And we're acting like he's been horrible. Now, if you look at the history of the NBA, there have been tremendous point guards who struggled early. Steve Nash came off the bench his first 2 years. Gary Payton averaged 8 points, 6 assists his first 2 years. Chauncey Billups was with 4 teams and a bust for 5 years before going to Detroit.
But none of those guys were anointed the way this guy was, that he was going to come in and be the next fresh face of the biggest team in one of the biggest cities.
And that's the problem.
Stories,
right.
Because of his dad, there is over scrutiny.
And because of the Lakers and Magic.
Lakers.
I mean, it's
Magic
it was like a domino. Magic Johnson just took over. They made it, but man, we want this kid. He's an LA kid.
We figured if they want,
I mean, they needed showtime. But one thing that I want to point out that I think has become a detriment, that was a skill set that you and I, because we went to watch him play live at UCLA, Pauley Pavilion. We saw it. He was such an unselfish player. He'd get the rebound, or someone else get the rebound, give it to him. Man, he was apt to throw the ball 45 feet up, but that doesn't transfer to the pro game. And you don't see him doing that. So something that used to be a huge plus for him, I see him every game make the same mistakes over and over. You're the point guard. Yeah. Run the offense. Push the tempo. You can't throw the ball up the way you used to. So for me, my biggest problem is, no, I don't want him to go to the G League. I just want him to play smarter. I want the coaches, and I worry about that with that young staff. Yeah, play him, but play him the right way. And you have to play him at the end of games. The reason why, because the overall value, if you have success with him, it doubles because they're in critical times. And visually, it's not good for a superstar player to be sitting there watching the fourth quarter for the most part in these critical games.
All right, and as you were saying that, they were showing highlights of him playing at the end of the game and taking 2 terrible three-pointers. Now, I agree with you. If he's going to stay up on this level, he needs to play at the end of games, but that's what they're going to get from him. You mentioned 9, 7, and 7. That's just points, rebounds, assists. I'm going to give you a different set of numbers. 31%, 24%, 43%. That's field goal percentage, three-point percentage, free throw percentage. That makes him the league's worst high-volume three-point shooter, the league's worst high-volume free throw shooter as a guard. And I'm going to focus and hone in on the free throw percentage. And here's why. That, to me, is a sign of a guy whose confidence is
That's a game
lost.
changer.
He was in the mid to high 60s in college. Yep. So he wasn't a guy that was going to come into the league and shoot 85% from the line. I get it. The hitch in his shot's going to hurt him in that. But when you are shooting free throws worse than Shaq, Dwight Howard, worse than any player in recent NBA history, when that's not what you were in college, that's confidence. And that's why I said the G League. I said the G League because let him go back and play a few games where he's reminded what it's like to be one of the best players, have good games, have efficient games, and see if that just shakes or steadies his brain.
He's had big games in the NBA. His second game was a big game.
Right,
he's had triple doubles. Him going down to the G League, I think, could wreck his confidence. Because, I mean, you're the second pick in the league going down to the G League. I can't think of a player that's happened to. Exactly.
I think the G League, I think guys go after him like Patrick Beverley the first game. Because, man, that's a scrappy league. Like, they got nothing guaranteed to them. Yep. Everyone is trying to come up. My thing is, learn the game and learn how to play smarter. Nick brings up a good point with the free throw shooting. We wouldn't accept this type of shooting for a guy who was 7'6". I mean, we would make we wouldn't accept this type because even if a guy was 7 foot, you know, with his free throw, his field goal percentage would be around 65, 68%. So it leads to playing scared. When you're 6'6" and you can't shoot, and you're shooting 40% from the free throw line, how often do you think I'm going to the hole? I'm afraid to get fouled.
And I would imagine you're there a lot and you hear a lot of these post-game press conferences and you hear the questions which are similar to the conversations we're having. And I'm sure a lot of it revolves around his confidence, his mental state, like what's inside, because we know he's got this skill set. What's the answer? I mean, what's the line they keep dishing out? What's keeping them from getting through to him somehow?
He's got a lot to work on. There's no question about it. But like I said, a lot of great point guards had that initially. He's got to learn the pick and roll game better. I think in the summer, they need to revamp his whole shot. Like, don't do it now. Yes. You got to let him play now. Yes. But in the summer, they need to change his shot.
And the free throw shooting is an indicator of that.
Yep, exactly.
I'm going to point out one small thing that is, to me, indicative of a guy who is not only has lost his confidence, but is questioning everything about his game. And that is the propensity with which he's taking threes. The last 10 games, half of his shots have been three-pointers, despite the fact that he is the league's worst three-point shooter. Cris, I know you still play, and I know you still play, and I even still try a little bit to play pickup basketball. What does the worst player on the court do? He stands back and chucks. Because he knows he can't get to the rim. He knows if he puts the ball on the ground, it's going to get ripped. He knows that he's not a better athlete than the guy. So the guy that really shouldn't be out there, which oftentimes, if I'm playing in your type of league, is me, I'm just going to stand out there and try to hope my shot's good. because I know if I go to the rim, it's getting swatted or I'm getting bodied. And Lonzo took
and he's got no mid-range game either. That's the big. He can't finish because he's not that strong yet.
Patriots are zeroing in on December 17th. Not only the day these two teams face each other, but also there's a Christmas fair here in town. Lots of great deals. But mostly the matchup between these two teams. They're both 9-2 and pulling away from the rest of the conference. Nick Wright, which team is better, the Patriots or the Steelers, right here, right now, today?
The Steelers have a better roster. The Steelers have more dynamic playmakers. The Steelers absolutely have a more consistent defense. The Steelers have more dynamic weapons. The Steelers are the better football team. The Steelers are the team this year that has not concerned you against their best competition. The Steelers are a team that has the Week 15 game at home. So and I know this will shock America, but the Steelers, the woebegone Steelers, the up-and-down Steelers, the can't-trust-them Steelers, have the exact same record as the steady and unbelievable New England Patriots. Both these teams are really good. We thought the AFC was going to be a 3-team race, but then Kansas City nuked its own season somehow. It's now a 2-team race. Sorry, Blake Bortles and Jacksonville, you're not in it, nor is Marcus Mariota and the Titans. It's between these two teams, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, by the statistical measure or by the eye test, to me, are the best team in the AFC.
Well, the conversation can only be between two teams, so that makes the conversation a lot easier to have. As far as at this point in the season, they've played 11 games, they had the bye week, 12 weeks. It's hard to separate these two teams, from coach to quarterback to organization to players. So we have to look for some other things that would separate these teams. And one thing that I would have to go to the statement that Mike Tomlin makes, guaranteeing in week number 15 that there's going to be fireworks. Really? Well, I think we're at week number 13 now, right? And I know they're playing an NFL team. The Steelers in the NFL, they're not like Alabama where they can throw in a Mercer,
right?
Right before you play Auburn to try to get yourself ready. No, right?
Back-to-back divisional games they have coming up. At Cincinnati, then home for Baltimore.
Oh.
To answer your question.
So you got two divisional games that are always more important than any other game, but you're going to tell your team, you're going to tell your fan base, after a win that you could have lost the game against an undermanned Green Bay team, oh, there's going to be fireworks. Oh, so the advantage I give the Patriots is the Patriots don't have to win that game. Pittsburgh's put all the pressure on themselves. The Patriots are next week, and when they finally get to, if Pittsburgh's still there, then they'll play that game. But in Pittsburgh's mind, based on what the coaches said and based on their lack of success against New England, they've put a lot more pressure on themselves, and they've put more onus on one game than you can do during the NFL schedule. Now, the coaches told the team leading up to this, hey, guys, every game's important. Every game has the same amount of weight. That's what coaches tell players. Hey, stay focused on this week. Now, the coach says, after the Green Bay game, he didn't have to. Hey, what's going to happen against New England? Oh, there's going to be a lot of fireworks. So for me, the overall focus and the consistency comes with being week in, week out. I think that's a Patriot advantage, and it speaks to them being more committed to the here, right now, compared to, what's going to happen in the future.
Listen, we'll see if that ends up jumping up and biting Pittsburgh in these next 2 weeks. What I do know is this, that usually your divisional games are the most important. When you're 9-2 and the second-place team in your division 6-5, and that's the case for New England and Pittsburgh, the divisional games are no longer more important.
They're not even focused on it. They're focused on December 17th. So if you can focus on a team and let the 0-11 Browns come through, and if you're not focused on them, you could lose to that team.
Okay, sure, and you could lose to them if you are focused on them. And I call me crazy. I'm guessing that this week they're watching Bengals game film. This week they are preparing for Cincinnati. What I
would think, but no one told the coach. He didn't have to tell Tony Dungy that. I know Tony Dungy's his mentor and everything. Like, he didn't have to say that. Even if they were preparing emotionally for a shootout, it was not wise for him. What did he benefit the team by saying that?
I'm so glad you asked that. That is what I was going to bring up. Mike Tomlin is not a dumb man. Mike Tomlin is one of, in my opinion, one of the 4 best pro football coaches in the league. Mike Tomlin, I know you think highly of Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin clearly believes there is a reason to do this. There is a reason to say this. There is a reason for our team that can have very high highs and very low lows, to start circling this game. Because that is the game that will determine who is the 1 seed. That game is not worth 1 in the standings. It's worth 2 in the standings because of the head-to-head tiebreaker. So if it is more important.
This game's important, but let me tell you the most important game, Nick. The most important game is going to be in January.
Right, but
because you know what? Because who wins that game is eliminated. All right, so leading up to this, like, they might try to put their season on this, but most teams that do that, it typically fails because it is counterintuitive to what football coaches teach on a regular basis.
I think that this Pittsburgh Steelers team is a far more emotional team, we know that, than the very steady Patriots, what you said. And the trouble you get into with that is you never know which Steelers team is going to show up, which is why they come very close to losing games against really mediocre teams, whereas the Patriots have themselves so focused and zoned in on exactly what's right in front of them that they just go out and they have been very consistent in the way they win. And I think if you ask which is the better team, I think you have more confidence in the Patriots because you know they are 100% focused on this and only this, and they're not going to get too high and too low, and they're going to do it the way they've been doing it.
That stuff's flatly, to me, overrated. This idea.
It's contradicting philosophies,
well,
but
I'm just going to tell you, based on being in NFL locker room, based on hearing hundreds of coaches talk, interviewing coaches, even if the coach can handle it, the projection, your 53-man roster can't handle it. These young guys can't handle that. They need to be focused, and the other thing is disrespectful to the other 2 teams you're playing. They are professional teams in your division.
Cowboys, 3 games into Zeke's 6-game suspension, and boy, do they miss him. Not only have they lost all 3, they haven't managed to score double digits in any of those 3. Dak Prescott talked about the recent struggles. Take a listen.
It's frustrating. It's shocking. Like I said, you look around and you see the Pro Bowlers and the talent that you have. It's almost lost at words of why it's happening. But it just shows you that this game's tough. I mean, it's tough week in, week out, no matter who you play, and that's what makes the NFL great.
Cece, we've more than talked about how Dak Prescott has been struggling, especially without Zeke and a couple other notable players in this lineup. But are you surprised that you take the other pieces out and he's struggled as poorly as he has in the last 3 games?
No, this is a system league, and the system is put in place to give the players a roadmap to how to be successful at doing their job. But in that system, there's always good players. And we're subject to the system and the type of players that the organization or the system staff puts around us. So, no, I'm not surprised. I thought Zeke was the best Cowboy. Last year, I thought he was the best Cowboy. That's what I told everyone. He was the best Cowboy. But everyone wanted to say that it was Dak. Okay, so now, unfortunately, we're able to see the Cowboys with Tyron Smith in there, with all the other offensive players except Zeke, and now you know who the best Cowboy is, all right? Because his ability to affect the offensive line, his ability to be able to control the game, his ability to be able to dominate in the red zone, he's a scoring machine. He also helps keep that defense off the field. So, no, I'm not surprised he was going to struggle, but it forces the quarterbacks to do more, and this is where young quarterbacks, they fail. The guy's played a season and a half. So for us to think that he had already arrived and have everything figured out, now is the reality, all right? This is a system league, and the system is about players plugged into the system to be able to help the system and the players in the system function at a high level.
I know you were surprised.
I'm shocked.
Newsflash.
Cece, I knew the Cowboys wouldn't be as good without Zeke. I believed Zeke was their best player as well. I did not think he was their most important player. And I'm shocked in today's NFL, a running back can be your most important player, unless you're a team like Jacksonville that has no quarterback.
Well, when you have your number one assets are 3 of your offensive line are all pro. Now, the thing that I didn't like what Dak said in the interview, he said, man, I got all these all-pro players around me. No, they're not playing that way.
Right.
I mean, maybe the center. The center might be the only Pro Bowl player that's playing to a Pro Bowl level this year. None of the other offensive linemen, and forget about their tight ends and wide receivers. Like, no, absolutely not.
All right, but so this is what is, to me, so disappointing, and I am not ashamed to say it, shocking to me. Something I did not see coming at all. I know that, guys, you have impressed upon me about the importance of systems. I get it. But typically, if you're a really good quarterback, you are the key to that system. I am not saying
that's what you think, but that's not. I don't believe that.
Well, hold on a second. Let me just give you some examples, okay? And tell me where I'm missing it. I'm not talking about Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady good. Let's go a tier or 2 below. Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers has dealt with different head coaches, different offensive coordinators, different wide receivers. The only consistent piece has really been Antonio Gates, different running backs. And Phillip Rivers, while the team's success might vary, his consistency is pretty right there.
Dak will never be able to throw the ball like Phillip Rivers. Well, he has an unorthodox throwing motion, but he's one of the best throwers that we've seen in the NFL.
So that's the part to me that is shocking. That Dak can't be. Let's take another.
Phillip Rivers has carried a franchise. Forget carried a team during the game. He has carried a franchise.
I get it. And that's the type of player, even if it's not the same style. I get that Phillip Rivers plays a different style of football. But that's the caliber of player.
We hadn't seen enough of Dak to think that he could carry a team. And you did not see what he did at Mississippi State to think that that could transfer over. Because it wasn't like he had a team that dominated the SEC. So you were just guessing.
Well, with young guys, we're always projecting. Like, we're always, I mean, we hadn't seen it in the NFL from Deshaun Watson until we saw it.
But we saw him dominate in college. We saw him dominate a pro team in Alabama twice.
So take Russell Wilson then. Because
Russell Wilson dominated NC State and at Wisconsin.
Russell Wilson was a guy at
Wisconsin elected him team captain the first day he stepped on campus.
No doubt. I'm talking about once they got to the pros. Like when his first year in Seattle for Russell Wilson.
Dak won't be able to throw the ball as good as Russell Wilson.
So that's the part that I missed. No, I'm owning it. That's the part that right now it looks like I totally whiffed on. Because Russell Wilson was another guy. It's like, maybe it's the system. It's the great defense. It's Marshawn Lynch. And then we found out that Russell Wilson was an elite player.
And Dak is not the athlete that Russell is.
So if all these things are true, hold up, though. Let's just level set for a moment. So he can't throw the way these elite guys can throw. He's not the athlete of some of these other guys.
Well, if you pinpoint, if you go one by one, yes, based on the people you've lined him up against, no, he's not better. No, he's not a better thrower than Phillip Rivers. Never will be. All right? He won't be as accurate. He won't have the arm strength and timing that Phillip has throwing the ball down. And he won't be a better athlete than Russell Wilson. It's not like I'm saying discouraging things about it. That's just the truth.
Right, but if that's the truth, then at least me, and I think a lot of people, maybe you were on it the whole time, but a lot of people that watch the Cowboys, watch the NFL, have to totally recalibrate where Dak Prescott is in our overall quarterback hierarchy.
Well, start it.
Okay.
I think this is why
Walk
we're
it
having...
back. Walk all them comments back.
So the Philadelphia Eagles have a lot to celebrate this season, sitting alone at the top of the NFL standings at 10-1. And then this, breaking out the electric slide in the fourth quarter of Sunday's blowout win against the Bears. Really well done, choreographed to perfection. Leading the celebration, Pro Bowl safety Malcolm Jenkins, who joins us now. Malcolm, first of all, thanks so much for getting up early with us this morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
I have to ask you, first of all, based on what we just saw, the touchdown celebrations have been such a big part of celebrating, getting into the end zone this season. How much time, effort, and minutes go into that? How long did it take you guys to perfect the electric slide, nail it, and then go out there and do it?
I mean, you know, I've been doing the electric slide for years at cookouts, family functions, weddings. So, you know, we can break that out at any point in time. There was no practice or prep put into it. We had a couple guys that wasn't too smooth, though. We got to go check them out this week, make sure they get that right.
Need a little rehearsal. Malcolm, first things first. Yeah. As a former Buckeye, OH.
I.O.
All right. Congratulations for us winning again against that team up north. But let's talk about the Eagles.
Killing them.
What would you – yeah, we kill them on the regular. What would you attribute to the success of this team at this point? We know you guys have added a number of veteran players. Peterson in his second year, Wentz in his second year. But you being a veteran player, give us some of those things, tangible things that fans don't see that have led to you guys having the best record in the NFL.
I mean, honestly, when you look at it, I think it's the contributions that we've gotten from each player. I mean, we had so many injuries early in the year. We lost Ronald Darby, our starting corner, lost Jordan Hicks, our veteran or our middle linebacker. We dropped a couple guys here or there, and it was one of those things where we lost Darren Sproles, Chris Marigos. These are key players to what we do, but we've been able to plug guys in, and they've played, you know, up to par and even beyond our expectations. Nigel Bradham has been playing good snaps for us. And then you got a bunch of guys that we added in the offseason that have been great contributors with Alshon Jeffries, LeGarrette Blount, added Ajayi in there. And these guys have come in and really stepped our game up. Obviously, the maturation of Carson Wentz has been huge. But really, you know, everybody at every position has been contributing and making plays. And that's what's making it so fun. That's what's making us so dominant, is the depth that we've been able to have, to be able to get through some of those adverse times, especially early. And now as we move throughout the season, guys are getting healthier, we're flying around, we're understanding, we're growing, and we're just having a lot of fun.
Malcolm, when people talk about your defense, they probably point out you guys have the #1 rushing defense in football, or you have a top 3 scoring defense. What stands out to me as most important is you guys also have a top 3 third down defense, and you guys are top 3 in the NFL as far as turnovers forced. Those are the key inflection points of games. What has made you guys so big, so good in the biggest moments?
Well, I think it's what we practice, you know, and that's how we prepare. We want it to be a great run defense, and that's really about attitude. You know, everybody has a simple scheme. We run a 4-3 defense. Every person has a gap. When the ball's ran to your gap, you know, you can't get blown off the ball, and you got to make the tackle. And oftentimes we see teams try to, you know, pack everybody in tight and get the ball on the edge, and our corners come up and tackle better than anybody in this league. And I think that's why you see us at the top of the league in run defense. We put a very big emphasis on third down. We feel like if we can get off of the field and give our offense the ball, that always gives us an advantage. And then the #1 thing about, you know, the team stat is the takeaway turnover margin. And so any chance we get to get the ball, whether that's pressure on the quarterback and you get a strip fumble or you get pressure on the quarterback, balls tipped up in the air, we got to come up with those. And we've been, you know, an advantageous defense up until now, and you know, it's a huge part and the reason we're having success as a team.
Hey, Malcolm, speaking of getting to the quarterback, Sunday night you got a big game in Seattle. Now, I know the Seahawks aren't the team that we all thought they would be, ravaged with injuries and whatnot. Russell Wilson is still one of those really dangerous quarterbacks who you have to protect, you know, when he's in the pocket, but also he has the ability to go anywhere and do anything. Tell me what kind of challenges that presents to you guys.
I mean, you know, Russell Wilson is one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in this league. His ability to pass from the pocket, but also extend plays and make magic happen. I mean, he's been a fun player to watch. It's been well documented, you know, how clutch he is as well when the game's on the line. And that entire team is just well disciplined. They're well coached. They don't mind winning ugly games. You know, they're very, very comfortable in tight games and finishing out in the end. So it's not one of those things that, you know, they've had some injuries, but this team still plays well, and they'll figure a way to overcome that. And he still has, you know, plenty of weapons in Jimmy Graham, Doug Baldwin, who we got a lot of respect for. So we'll have our hands full going on the road in a hostile environment, a primetime game. You know, with Russell Wilson at the helm, we got a lot to get prepared for.
Malcolm, yourself and great defenses, you make a living off of young, inexperienced quarterbacks. You have a great quarterback in Dak in his second year there in Dallas, but your own quarterback. What has Carson Wentz done from year 1 to 2, or what has the staff done that we're starting to see the results that he would be considered the MVP #1 candidate at this point? We know the growth between year 1 and 2 in the league is the biggest growth, but what have you personally seen with Carson?
Well, the biggest thing is when he came in, he was already a gunslinger. You know, didn't care who the corner was, who the safety was. He's throwing the ball and throwing it down the field. And I thought that was something that we liked about him. He got on the field his first, Sunday and made magic happen. His extending plays, his mobility has been something that's been fun to watch. You know, he came into the league with those two things, the big arm and the ability to extend plays. But I think where he matured into this second season is his decision making. And so now he's not turning the ball over like he did his rookie year. And, his touchdown interception ratio is out of the roof. Plus you added a couple receivers, a running game with it. It's just making it so much easier for him. And then when we get in some bad binds, he does what he does and extends the play and finds somebody deep down the field. So I think his decision making really has been the biggest jump. But everything else he's had since he stepped foot in the league.
Malcolm, pretend you're just a friend of mine who doesn't play in the NFL and you're just sitting at home watching all the teams evenly and you don't have one team that you're rooting for or anything whatsoever. All that being said, is Carson Wentz the MVP this season?
I mean, I believe so. It's hard to make an argument against him. Just the amount of success that we've been able to have as a team, him being a big reason for that. His statistics, and when you just watch him play, he's just an entertaining player to watch. And, he definitely has my MVP vote.
Malcolm, off the field, or I guess some on the field, you've been one of the leading advocates for criminal justice reform, one of the leading advocates for the NFL players as far as what these protests are actually about. You've talked with legislators, you've talked with police, you've done a lot of important work. For you, how frustrating has it been when you see the coverage of this issue being called an anthem protest as opposed to what the protest actually is about and the work you guys are actually doing?
I mean, that's probably the most frustrating part, is to make the conversation about more than just the anthem and whether it's right or wrong, but the actual reasons and why behind it. But that's kind of the work of the players, to continue to get out in our communities, to continue to advocate for the changes that we want to see, whether it be in our criminal justice system, whether it be in our educational system, or even just being able to have economic advancement in some underserved communities. We have to continue to stand on our platform and continue to speak, continue to draw awareness, and we don't mind doing that. And I think it's one of those things that players have been involved in the communities for a long time, but there's this new awakening of urgency that we need to, right now, while everyone's watching, is to do the work. And that's what people have been waiting for, is to see, one, what are we doing after these protests? Are we backing up our words with deed? And are we providing solutions to actually move forward? And I think we are. We just got to continue to do it until everybody, pays attention.
All right, one follow-up, Malcolm. I think I know the answer to this, but I want to give you an opportunity to, spread the word, so to speak. A lot of people who criticize you guys who are protesting, what they say is, what are you mad about? You've made it. You're rich. You're famous. You're living the American dream. Why, despite the fact that you are those things, wealthy, famous, living a great life, has this been something that is so important to you?
I mean, well, you got to realize, I hadn't been in the NFL my entire life. I've been blessed to be in this game for 9 years. But we just had the holiday season. And when I go back to New Jersey to visit my family, they're not in the NFL. And they're still in these same communities, growing up in New Jersey, where the educational system is not that great. There's crime. You can look at other players like Anquan Bolden, whose cousin a couple years ago was shot by and killed by an officer while his car was broke down on the road. My teammate Torrey Smith, his mother being a convicted felon and not being able to get employment, and all of a sudden she had her record expunged, and she goes to making 6 figures or close to it. So we live these examples and these experiences, long before we ever got in the NFL, and that's spread across the league. Everybody who has these stories, we're still black men once we take our helmets and jerseys off. And these are still communities that we've come from or that we, currently go back to. And so it's important to us. It may not affect us on a daily basis, but we have an opportunity to draw attention to, like I said, the communities that we come from, our family members that are still in these communities, and just these American issues in general. These are issues that are affecting our citizens. And as citizens, we feel like we need to make sure we give a voice to those that don't get heard.
Malcolm, as an alumni of the NFL, you're a guy that makes us all proud. As an alumni of The Ohio State University, you've made the university proud. The College Football Playoff Committee, they're calling you Saturday night. The Buckeyes beat Wisconsin, the Big Ten championship. Do the Buckeyes deserve one of those spots in the Final Four this year, Malcolm Jenkins?
It's hard to say that we deserve it. I think we need to handle business. We need to beat Wisconsin and beat them pretty big, and then we could say we deserve it. But when you lose to a team like Iowa, Oklahoma, now they'll be in the playoff hopefully. I think we need to make sure that we handle business in this Big Ten championship. If we get a little bit of luck and they choose us over another team, then great. But we definitely gotta take care of some business this week.
All right, Malcolm Jenkins. Malcolm, thank you so much. Good luck in Seattle, and good luck practicing just getting everyone on board with that electric slide. It's very challenging, some of the moves. I know I don't want you to pull anything.
The ones who don't have it, put them in the back.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Malcolm.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.